Hello and welcome to New Game Plus. I'm Tim. I'm joined by Kirsty. How are you?
I'm very excited because we're covering some stuff that's very close to me, I suppose, this week. We're looking back at the Japanese Film Festival that happened late last year.
Yeah, certainly some very interesting films at that festival.
It was actually really funny. Like, we've done a bit of coverage, of course, over the past few weeks, but the one thing that got me still was the extremes.
Yeah.
It was either like extremely funny or extremely sad or
quite
extremely
full on,
violent.
yeah.
It's just, there's no middle ground. I think that really describes Japan really succinctly.
But something that's very close to my heart. Peggle 2.
Yay.
Yay. I'm excited as the person presenting at E3.
There's some little joke that I forgot. See, I was stuck in Australia. I didn't get to go to E3. I don't know if you heard. I did. So I had to stay at home. Anyway, but we do have some cool game reviews for you
yes,
as
we
well.
do. We have Saint Seiya later on in the episode.
And now this is something we got to see at TGS. So we got hints of at TGS, which was exciting. So now we're finally getting a proper review of this game, which is fun.
Definitely. And first up, we have Ace Attorney.
Well, Kirsty, you know what they say, it's better late than never, and such is the case for Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Dual Destinies on the 3DS.
Yes, it's actually the first time I've played a Phoenix Wright game in a little while. I played the first couple and I loved it. I love Phoenix Wright with Miles Edgeworth, that whole kind of are they, aren't they dynamic kind of going on. And so I've jumped on with this game and it's like, oh wow, there's all these new people. There's like Apollo Justice, there's the girl Athena Sykes. I'm like, what's going on? But I was still really impressed.
Yeah, it's a good thing as well because the game serves as a clean slate compared to the other titles. I mean, the original trilogy's over. I mean, Phoenix Wright is back with his right to attorney. Once again, he's got his license back. So yeah, so in Apollo Justice, he loses it, and then 7 years later, he's back in the fray with some fresh new faces as well as some familiar ones.
Now, the one thing I really liked about this game, going on from that, are the graphics. And the reason I go on from that is because Phoenix Wright actually looks older.
He does.
Which is unusual in anime. Most of the anime characters seem to stay in a complete stasis until they literally hit like Master Roshi age. So the animation sequences, even in 3D, I actually found myself using 3D for the first time in a long time.
The characters, they have flamboyant designs, which is pretty much a staple for any Ace Attorney game, as well as the animations, they just pop. It's fantastic. But whereas with the gameplay, what did you find? What were your experiences with it?
Well, I generally found it quite well. It played just like the old Phoenix Wright games, so it's all about text-based options. My big problem came with a bit of the pixel hunting, where I was looking for specific points of evidence. I actually found myself getting kicked in and out of the courtroom a couple of times, and that was game-breakingly frustrating.
One of the issues with me was the context sensitivity of the powers of each character. So each character has different powers. Phoenix Wright can bluff. Apollo has a bangle he uses to detect lies and things like that. Whereas in previous games like in Apollo Justice, where you can use it anytime you want, in this is a bit more context sensitive and the game tells you when to use it. So it was a bit frustrating.
It really was.
Yeah,
there was a couple of times I was like, why can't I use this power? But other than that though, the game's really enjoyable. There's some great in-jokes in it. The music is really nice. Everything just works really nice as a package. I just like to, again, see those powers be more utilised.
Absolutely. You got it!
Now, as I mentioned last week, Ace Attorney is a game a bit close to my heart. I played the first couple of games on the original DS and really loved it because it's like it's so manga. They've got these really over-the-top expressions.
Very quirky, all the hairstyles.
Yeah, with good old Phoenix Wright / Naruhodo. And then when in the later games, they call him like Naruhobo because he becomes such a hobo. And it's really funny. So now this game as well was interesting because it didn't receive a box release here in Australia. It was download only, but it was box released in Japan. So our good friend
go all the way to Japan to get it.
But now, anyway, let's go back to you because we talked about obviously puzzle games last week. Here's another puzzle game. Do you think you could get into this one? This one's a bit more RPG.
No, I object to its premise.
Oh, but he's so sharply dressed, and then him with Edgeworth and that whole kind of weird Naruto Sasuke dynamic going on there.
His suaveness cannot convince me.
Oh, but you're really missing out. And have you seen the movie? No. Oh, the movie's incredible. It goes for like 3 hours, but it's so good. No, I think you're really missing out on this one because there's a lot more art. I mean, obviously there's a bit of pixel hunting, trying to find evidence, but oh, come on. Come in. You're going to give this a chance.
Maybe.
Yay. So I've really kind of got into musical games at the moment. So I'm trying out Dead Pixel by Chillingo and About Fun. And the whole premise of the game is you are a little pixel and you're running down a screen, I suppose, and you have to bring to life all of the other dead pixels. The premise is, do dead pixels go to heaven? So I suppose the idea is if your little itty bitty pixel touches any of the other dead pixels hanging around, they get to go to heaven. The game is very musical based. So they actually say at the start of the game that it's best played with headphones. And I do have to agree. It's got a really great kind of chip-tuney / dancey / really upbeat soundtrack going behind it that of course does evolve as you change. The gameplay itself is relatively simple. It's literally touch the left side of the screen to move to the left, touch the right side of the scene to move to the right, and the character runs on rails. So there's lines of pixels down the screen and you are in each of these lines. Now, if you're a little itty bitty pixel, if you touch any of the dead pixels, like crash into them, then you die. What you're supposed to do is go right past them and just touch them, and then they come to life. Now, as you touch more of them and as you collect power-ups, you become something called a megapixel. And that's where you become just a giant pixel that takes up the whole screen and you just annihilate everything in sight. The game does have in-app purchases, and as you progress in the game, they do become more, I guess, necessary. But otherwise, the game looks fantastic. It sounds fantastic. It's a cute premise and works really well on the big screen of the iPad. So you really can't go wrong with Dead Pixel.
What is with the mushroom?
I picked it for tea.
But aren't those the ones that cause gigantism? Whatever, man. Just, don't eat that mushroom because it's stupid. But you are stupid. Hey, did you hear about the dark side is big?
I fucked that.
That time of the century has come around where Hayao Miyazaki has tried to bow out gracefully but then has come back.
Yeah, and he does this a fair bit. He'll announce his retirement and then rescind said retirement very
It's
quickly
the John
afterwards.
Farnham effect. Anyway, the final movie of his, supposedly, was The Wind Rises.
Yeah.
And in true Miyazaki / Ghibli styling, it was, for me, a very beautiful and very kind of sad tale of life.
Yeah, and I think this is the part that divides the audience. You take away from it that it's a story of triumph, following your dreams no matter what, or you take it as somebody commented leaving the cinema, a rose-tinted reflection on the war from an old man who doesn't want to admit, which is missing the point, because the main story itself is Jiro Horikoshi, who was responsible for designing the Zero Mitsubishi warplane. Now, this is the hard part, because that was the single linchpin of the Japanese offensive, particularly in the early years. Like later on, the Americans countered them, but early on, the Rhine was untouchable, and that was the reason that they were so terrifying an enemy. The Rhine was pretty much single-handedly responsible for Pearl Harbor.
Yep.
Not that we're going to get into the politics of Pearl Harbor because we'll be here all day. But the moral of the story is, he wanted to make planes, and this is the thing that I took away from the whole thing. It was just a man who wanted to make planes.
Because the thing was, this movie wasn't actually set in the war.
No.
It was between the war, because he grew up in between World War I and World War II. So you get the Kanto earthquake of 23, wipes everything clean, and you just see him growing up through it. And he's just constantly hit by tragedy as well.
Yeah.
He's never really glorified. They don't even mention the war.
Yeah.
It's just an undercurrent. It's this omnipresent evil that nobody's talking about.
Yeah.
And that just feels
And they
everything
never
along.
apologize. Like, it's
No.
pretty much Japan's going to blow up from this war. Every
It was
time
all
it's
about sadness,
every
yeah.
time it's brought up that it's going to end. And I think Hideaki Anno is the main character, and that surprised me. Of Evangelion fame, is the main character. He does a fantastic job. His wife, who he meets at a young age, and the story is generally a wonderful story, and it's more based in reality than a lot of Miyazaki's other stuff, besides the dream sequences.
Yeah.
But it saddens me that people see it as an apologist film about the war because I just feel they've missed the point entirely.
They've also missed the visual point of it. I really loved the way that I guess these great tragedies were imagined, or most of the sound effects.
And the earthquake looked awesome.
The earthquake, it was all about how they could vocally make it sound like that, which was
every
incredible.
machine noise in the movie is actually made by a human, which
human voice,
is such a haunting thing once you realise what it is. It's a subtle touch, but it works really, really well.
Well, I'm here today to talk to Brandon Sanderson. Now, Brandon, you're well known for your fantasy novels, The Wheel of Time and the Mistborn series.
Yes. The Wheel of Time I'm finishing for an author named Robert Jordan, who passed away in 2007, and I took over to finish the last 3 books.
Well, it's one of those things, and it's very hard sometimes to, I guess, really embrace someone else's style of writing. How have you found that transition?
It was really, it was a challenge. I had been reading the book since I was 15. I really deeply loved the series, and I think that's part of why I was chosen. And in some ways, it's a dream come true. You know, you're this little fanboy. You can imagine him just sitting there and pouring through these books. I'd read them, dozens of times. They'd inspired me to become a writer myself, and then to get the chance to be involved in it. But it's also bittersweet because he passed away, and he should be finishing it, and he can't. So my goal was really just to keep the soul of the series the same, finish his series, and not make it my own.
Well, you have actually done other series that are licensed. You've done the books for the Infinity Blade series.
Yes. The guys who do the Infinity Blade games, which are for iOS, are friends of mine. They live locally, and they are fans of my books, and so we kind of collaborated a little bit on the story for that game.
Well, I've got to say, we've read the first book, The Way of Kings, your most recent novel, and reading it, it really would translate very well into a video game. Have you ever thought that yourself, or?
I am a gamer. I love video games. In fact, I haven't done Way of Kings yet because I'm very new into that series, but Mistborn, my most famous series, I actually sold video game rights to a company, and I'm writing the story. I've been really excited by what's been happening. Bob Salvatore, Ari Salvatore wrote The Reckoning, did that, and I think that's really exciting. We're kind of getting these cross-genre things where an author's coming in to do some story and working with game people. So that's what we're doing with Mistborn. Is I'm designing the story and all the flow and doing all the dialogue, and people who actually know how to make games fun are doing the game part. It's going to be a blast.
See, that's the best way to do it. Have your strengths and have your and work to that. Before you go, what games have you been playing then?
My favorite game this year was probably Dark Souls. I'm a hardcore old RPG player, and RPGs that don't coddle me, I just love. And so that game was a blast.
Well, you'll get along very well with her. Brandon, thank you very much for your time.
So, I don't know what there is to say about this one, Shaney. Peggle 2.
Use balls to get points to get more balls.
I think the easiest thing to say is, have you played Peggle 1?
Yes.
If the answer is yes, welcome to Peggle 2.
Yeah.
If you haven't played it, it's kind of one ball pachinko.
Oh,
Is that a way to describe it?
could see that.
Yeah, so you don't just, and you have to try and hit all the orange pegs in a map. And this is just a basic story mode. All the orange pegs in a map, and then you have Peggle Masters. Each 10 courses is represented by a Peggle Master who has a different special ability, blah, blah, blah. The core premise hasn't exactly changed.
Nothing really has changed.
The only thing that has is the powers, the different Peggle Masters. So you've got like the freezing one, which pushes the pegs around the map and stuff like that. So that was the most fun in the other one, particularly when you were doing the score chasing, was picking the power that was going to maximize, how you did it. And I think that's what works for this one.
It's still always like score chasing kind of fun. You get versus your friends. You try to figure out which one's actually the best for each level, even though like you start out and you're forced to go through.
Yeah, you're forced to stick with the ones in the story mode. Then once you unlock the challenge modes, once you unlock those kinds of things, it's when the game really goes through. So you think there's skill, but don't delude yourself. There's not. Like 90% of the game is luck, and 10% is your placement.
Okay, all right. I'll just live that.
You can aim it and you can say, that's where I want it to go. But then you'll be a millimeter off. You'll hit another peg, it'll go in the air. It's like, well, crap, and then
Yeah. There's always that millimeter of luck that you can't really control. But it's not like a game that you can. I know, just get in and win. You can't just
press it and you get there has to be that precision at the start. And using powers effectively, sure. But when it's all said and done, it is just push the button, hear the nice music as it plays at the end.
That is one thing. It is good music. They have changed the music a little bit, and it does work with all the stages. The first stage, I really hate the ping music, but whatever.
Jeez, calm down.
Size. Well, this game did come out a while ago, but it's having a fresh take on it with the PlayStation 4. Free to play, like MMO FPS, coming to the PlayStation 4.
Now I see why you're interested.
Yes.
The MMO part.
No, I did play quite a bit of it in its early days, and the Australian server was a bit barren, but it has such a great premise to it. Just the always, like, their world, and everything that you do and your squad does affects that world where you take over bases and resources and do all that sort of stuff. It's a great premise, and I really want to see it succeed on the PlayStation 4 as well.
Do people suck as like in the game? Like are there a
Some
lot
people
of jerks?
do.
Yeah. Yes. No, I like it.
With the new Saint Seiya Omega anime series coming out, Namco had to rush out a game.
Yeah, of course.
They could, and they've brought out Saint Seiya Brave Soldiers.
Brave Soldiers!
First Saint Seiya game in the States, and it's just on the PS3. Shayna, what's it about?
It's basically a fighting game, so, you get what you expect. It's almost, I'd say it's just like a Neuro to Riskin, so you just have, your mash combos, you have your teleports, you have your special skills that you can just spam out once you get meter, but there's nothing that I didn't think that's really brought new to this game.
Well, it's even less than a Naruto fighting engine. It's incredibly simplified. I mean, there is no supports, there are no items like there are in the Naruto, I guess, fighting engine. This is just dash, punch, activate awakening, which just makes you do more damage and do specials. There's not much more than that, but face it, people aren't going to buy this for that. They're going to buy it because maybe they like the franchise, or maybe you want to get into the story mode.
And the story mode is probably one of the best things in this game. It is slightly short, but it does cover all of the manga series. The voice acting is very, very good. It doesn't have a dub. Take that as you want. If you like Japanese voices, then I guess you're probably going to be happy.
I don't think they would have brought it out with a dub. I mean, they would try to rush this out as fast as they could, but they got some serious talent behind the voicing. Masakazu Morita, very well-known Seiyu, is playing Peggle as Seiya, the main character. And Seiya, unlike the game beforehand, Saint Seiya Sanctuary Battle, this particular game does cover all 3 of the major manga arcs, being the Golden Palaces arc, the Poseidon arc, and finally the Hades arc, which has not been shown in a game since the PlayStation 2 game.
The music, I think, in this game is actually one thing I do really enjoy. That said, I've just been told that it's from mostly all the same games, that, they say play the same music, but I don't know. Coming as a new person who hasn't played any other ones, I did enjoy the music.
You're going to find, though, if you're coming from other Saint Seiya games, this is literally a rehash of Sanctuary Battle, the one beforehand. They got rid of the Dynasty Warriors component. They just focused on the fighting game part. While that's a good thing, and they added to the roster over 50 characters now because they're covering all 3 arcs. It's all rehashes. The models look a little bit nicer, but as I said, the music is literally the exact same songs. The narrative's the same. Apart from that, very, very little is unchanged.
They do have a few, I guess, side modes that you can say. They've got, the survival. What else do they have? They have
Galaxy War as well, which is kind of like the tournament mode. Again, if you've played the Dragon Ball and Naruto games before. Survival actually got kind of hard, which is a bit weird because the AI is really kind of falls flat in its face. It's very abusable, very easy to defeat. But in Survival, I actually found in the ending ones, it actually started to get a little bit difficult and made the game, for once, kind of challenging and fun.
That's the thing. The AI in the story mode is just not great. All you have to do is just dash in, mash out a combo, and you've already got the bar for a teleport. That's the every attack you do gets you half a bar. It's crazy how amount you should actually get.
Dummy up combos, they don't end. Saint Seiya, it's got a broken system with the fighting. The music's a rehash, but if you love the story, it's going to be fun. If you want a cool anime story, it'll be cool. If you're a fan of the franchise, you've probably got it, and it gets too cool like Saint Seiya poses too.
And so we wrap up our Australia Day public holiday in Melbourne episode with a lot of Japanese stuff.
Yeah.
Now,
Work that one out.
Anyway, what did you do? What Australian games did you play?
Well, I wanted to play Ashes 2013, but...
Oh, did your Steam account not work?
Yeah.
That sucks.
No good. What about you?
No, well, see, I got really stuck into... I took my own advice from last week, and I started, or kept playing Duet by Humobius on iPad, which is a fantastic game. I mean, those guys, I love them. But this game in particular, very frustrating though, so I don't know.
So love-hate relationship. Just don't break your iPhone afterwards.
Yeah, that's probably not going to happen. Maybe I'll drop it on the ground and see what happens.
But of course, you've had a lot of fun with this episode because you love Japan and you went to TGS.
I know,
and
it's been
others stayed at home and
you didn't get to go to TGS? I didn't hear that somehow, which is really weird. But no, it was actually great kind of reminiscing back on all the cool Japanese stuff we got to really engage with. Last year was such an interesting year, and it's interesting to see what's going to happen this year because obviously we had CES a couple of weeks ago. We've got E03 coming up in a couple of months.
And there's certainly a lot of stuff coming out at CES, all technology and geeky, and it was really cool reading up on all of it.
And all the jokes. But anyway, I think we should wrap it up.
So visit our website, www.newgameplus.tv.
Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/NewGamePlusTV.
And follow our Twitter @NewGamePlusTV.
Thank you so much, Timmy. Let's go back to our barbecues.